Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Man, I am so stoked today. I have like my new favorite guitar player on here. We're with Nick Johnston, and I'm going to get into his background. But if you haven't heard him, man, you really, really need to get turned on to him. He's just an incredibly talented guy. And I mean, honestly, he just knocks the shit out of the park in every single way possible. Uh, real quick, couple of quick announcements. I want to thank Brian Beller for connecting us. Thanks, Brian. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe. Subscribe to the audio on the YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube right now, hit the subscribe button and the bell. All righty. Originally from Canada, Nick Johnston's sound and approach to guitar are built on his love of everything from blues to classic sci-fi scores. And even though his songs are instrumentals, he's definitely telling you a story and taking you on a journey. And I'll take this one step further, man. He has really long songs, and it is no different than like listening to something like Dark Side of the Moon, or it is literally like a ride, man. And it's all his stuff is deep. His most recent album from 2019, Wide Eyes in the Dark, he spent 2 years writing, refining, and recording the songs, all while traveling the world and experiencing life as a solo musician. It's an awesome record with killer melodic songs and guitar hooks. Nick's released 5 studio albums, done countless tours and clinics around the world. He also has a signature guitar series with Schecter. And if you want to hear what a Strat sounds, you got to listen to this young man because he gets the best Strat sound out of almost anybody I've ever heard, outside of the blues Strat sound. Sure. Nick's a phenomenal player. He's really talented, melodic, and incredibly tasteful when it comes to tearing it up on the guitar. And like I said, there's not too many people that can keep you entertained and involved in 7 to 9 minute instrumental songs the way Nick can. Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I'm so glad I got.
What an intro! What an intro that was,
dude. I didn't need to read this. I mean, you're like such a badass, man. Honestly, it's like every song I listened to, I was like, oh my God. I mean, and I'm not like a fanboy. I'm just like, you're like such a talented dude, man. And so
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Very, very kind, especially right now when instrumental music is just kind of like having this resurgence.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear someone kind of likes what I'm doing, which is a little off center of that, I think.
Yeah. But it's very, what I like about it is it's very soulful what you're doing. And you hear these themes of like, classic sci-fi scores. You hear things that are interesting.
Cool, man.
Interesting musically and palette as a journey wise.
Yeah, my whole thing with instrumental guitar, it's definitely changed over the years. It started out as I grew up in a really small town. When it was the early 2000s when I started playing guitar, there was maybe 1,000 people here. So I didn't have
your town. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's really small.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit smaller than that. When we moved here as a family in 1989 when I was 2 years old, and we were like the first house in the you can tell I'm Canadian house.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, as I was growing up, it kind of bloomed a little bit, but there was never enough of a musician scene. It was like me and a friend of mine were the only 2 people that played an instrument, and we both played guitar. So it wasn't like I could sing or put a band together. So I just figured I'll use the guitar as kind of the focal point. And fun fact, when I was almost 15, my dad asked me to come into the kitchen. He had one of those kitchen CD players where you could put a CD on while you made dinner. And he goes, I want you to check this record out. And he put on Flying in the Blue Dream. He put that album on. And he put Flying in the Blue Dream, the song on. And I was like, what the hell is this? Where's the singing? This is boring. I didn't like it. I didn't get it. I didn't understand what the hell instrumental music was. My dad bought that record because he loved the song Big Bad Moon. He loved that song. He thought it was just like the weirdest, coolest song. And he always loved guitar and stuff like that. But anyway, I had heard that, which is, now I listen to Flying in the Blue Dream and I have a completely different outlook on it. And I love that that piece of music. But at the time I was like, I don't get this. So being an instrumental guitar player per se never really was like gonna put instrumental albums out and just do this. It was more like, this is what I have. I'll just play the melody on the guitar. I wasn't aware that you could make instrumental albums. Do you know what I mean? It was more so, this is the melody line, so I'll play it on the instrument that I play. And then you add harmony to it. And then I slowly got into the shrapnel era of guitar players. And I was introduced to that whole movement after hearing Yngwie for the first time. I remember the first thing I heard by him. I'm just going to go on a tangent here for a minute.
Do your thing, man. Yeah.
I remember hearing him for the first time when I was 15. So 2002 at this point, grade 10. He was playing. I listened to the song "Vengeance" off of his magnum opus record, and I heard that song, and a lot of interesting things were going on. I heard these kind of faster sequences that kind of sound like a peak and a valley, just what became an arpeggio, of course. But to me, I didn't know what that was, so my ear was just like, what is that? Like, what is that thing? So I kind of figured out how he's playing so fast by just kind of sweep picking, of course.
Yeah.
Then I heard him playing these faster runs with a wah pedal, which I'd never really heard anybody doing that with a level of cleanliness that he had.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard Kirk Hammett do it, you heard, Hendrix and guys like that do it, but I had never heard anyone do it like Yngwie, right? And so I just was like, oh my God. And then you see a picture of him and you find, oh, he's using a Strat, which I started playing. I started on a Squire Bullet. Then I played a Mexican Strat a couple of years after that for all of high school. So it just kind of became more and more apparent that I not only loved the guitar, but I loved the idea of getting better at the guitar because it made me feel good. It used up all my time, which I had a lot of time because I lived in this small town. It was pre-internet, at least for my family, pre-internet. I know 2002 people were playing Quake online and shit like that, but I was still without a cell phone and even without a dial-up connection. So I just would buy guitar magazines and all this stuff, and I just, literally threw myself into that world as much as possible. I was at a point, playing 8-9 hours every day, just purely because I thought it was, it just scratched an itch I'd never been able to scratch because I played hockey. I'm Canadian. I played hockey my whole life. And there was a point where I was just like, I don't like this anymore. And my dad's a truck driver, and he was always away. And I have two brothers, so they were doing baseball and karate and all these other, there's so much shit going on. And eventually I was like, you know what, there's no need to put this stress on the family to get me to a 6 a.m. hockey practice. And then, the guitar kind of swooped in around that time and was like, hey, I'm your new thing now. And I remember just, there's a whole story I can tell about how I discovered how I wanted to play, but I just remember playing and it just felt great. It just felt great because I grew up, my dad listened to a lot of 70s progressive music. And
your dad's probably my age. How old's your dad?
65.
Oh, he's 10 years older than me.
Yeah, he's 65.
But you're his youngest. That's why.
I'm the middle.
Oh, you're the middle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My older brother is, I think he's 5. So my dad would be, he's 5 years older than me. So close enough in age in terms of, the son to father relationship.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Yes and King Crimson and all these bands. And so I always in the back of my mind or somewhere in the house, even as a baby, I always heard guitar music. I always heard guitar playing. And I thought the only way you could play guitar is you had to be a professional guitar player, which makes no sense. So I'm like, well, how do you get good at it? It's like, well, you have to be shitty at it. But all these guys are so good, so they must have always. It was this weird thing. I thought of the guitar as more of a sacred kind of instrument, and an untouchable kind of instrument reserved for the upper echelon of rock royalty. And then I started playing it, and I was like, oh wait, everyone started out like this at one point. But the trick was you had to love it, and you had to have that almost unbending will to want to get better at it because it was so difficult, and everything in the Western society was like, no, you got to go to school, you got to get a job, blah blah. But none of that mattered because I was just like, I love playing guitar, and you know, then you meet a few other people that are like that, and you kind of just form this bond with people and all that. But mainly it was me in my bedroom, just, you know, playing so much. But anyway, going back to your original question, I had heard instrumental music, but didn't know why the hell anybody would do that.
And how did you like did you do you ever thought of like singing, or that just wasn't your thing, or you had no interest in it?
No, I didn't have enough confidence to sing. Yeah, I barely had any confidence to play in front of anybody up until, you know, in my early 20s. I was so hard on myself, so unhealthily, that's the term. My insecurity was unhealthy, let's say that, in relation to playing in front of people. It just was. And I mean, I remember going into guitar stores, music stores, and I wouldn't even touch a guitar. It was, you know, when you put that much time and energy into something that's considered, well, being good or being incompetent as a musician on any instrument holds a level of fear and anxiety and timidness, you know, just by virtue of the fact, let's say you want to get into an orchestra. It's like, how do you get into an orchestra? Well, you have to audition, and at any time somebody could audition and take your spot. There's this level of competition. There's this level of fear and am I good enough? Am I good enough? And you're always practicing and you're always working hard. And even as a 15-year-old kid, I felt this pressure on myself that I had to be good enough. I had to be better. A pressure that came from no one. Like, it literally came from no one except myself, right?
Where do you think that, like, were you like that for example, when you were playing hockey?
No.
Okay.
By
so
the end of it, I hated it.
So how did you,
where did
that come from?
Well,
yeah.
I feel like it was the first thing I was really, that really came naturally. And I had a certain level of pride with, I could do this on my own. Because the thing with the team sports was you can't do it without a team and registration, and you need a uniform, and you need an official, and you need an arena, and you need money, and blah blah blah. Guitar, you can, you know, no one even now, no one pays me. Like, I'll play after this. No one's paying me to do that. I love it. So it was the same thing. It's like, I can just do this, and there's a certain amount of pride, and I can do this on my own. I didn't take lessons. I never took guitar lessons or anything. So it was the same thing. It's like, I can do this. I got this, you know. And you just develop this weird, oh man, if I'm not performing at a high level, people are going to think. But then eventually that goes away when you put yourself in enough awkward situations. That's a whole other story too. But I think really the whole guitar thing was motivated. A lot of my practicing, a lot of my development was motivated by a cocktail of fear, anxiety, self-doubt, and the other side of it was just the sheer love of playing and passing the time without even realizing 6 hours had gone by, you know, because I loved it so much. It was a weird relationship, really weird.
How are you now are you like easier on yourself now?
Oh yeah, I'll go days without playing now. Yeah.
I mean, as far as like the anxiety, not the anxiety, but like, not that do you demand less of yourself now? Are you more reasonable with what you expect out of yourself, more forgiving?
Depends on what I'm doing. Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm recording an album and I'm in the studio that I've paid for and I've booked this session 6 months in advance, then if I'm not delivering what I need, I'm kind of a nightmare to be around. And the only guy that can really reel me in and kind of, even when I'm in a funk, like a bad mood with it, he still can kind of, you know, like, come on, let's go, you got this, is the guy I've been working with for a couple of years, Scott. He engineered Remarkably Human and Wide Eyes with me, and he's one of those guys that, you know, I respect him not only as a person but as a musician, and his ear and his I don't know, I just love the guy. So it's like, it's easy to be around someone like that when you're in a working environment. But other than that, if I'm at home playing, I don't have any, I'll just like, oh, just not feeling it today. Or even when I'm playing live, sometimes it's just, oh, well, at least you put yourself out there. Tonight it wasn't like last night, but it was good, and then tomorrow will be better. Because at this point, if I'm not at a level to where I can just pick up and play, then I don't know if I'll ever be there. Because
man, but you're a young guy to have figured that out. I give you a ton of respect for that.
Oh, thank you. I just think at some point you stop worrying so much about technique and BPMs and what posture you have when you're practicing, and you just listen. It becomes like tone and your touch and the dynamics. And not that I'm a master of any of these things by any stretch, but I feel like those are the things I'm reaching for now, rather than just technique. The most technical I ever was when I was probably 16 years old, and I don't think I could ever be that technical again, because it was a parody. Like I was literally playing 10 hours every day. My hand-eye coordination was at its peak as a 16-year-old boy. It was ridiculous. And I'm glad I don't have any record of that, because I didn't have any gear to record myself, because that'd be horribly embarrassing. But now, it's just more like I'm really interested in tension, and I'm interested in melodies. And when I sit here and play one of these guitars, it's just specifically for the sound of the guitar. I just love the sound of the guitar.
Let me ask you this. You said you didn't take lessons. You obviously have a very good grasp on arranging, on creating very beautiful layers of sound and harmonies and melodies. And I'm assuming you clearly know how to improvise. Where did all that knowledge come from? Did you study theory on your own, or?
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy that I did a few sessions with him where he was a music teacher, and I ended up teaching at the same shop, and he kind of helped me a little bit with, the first seeds of music theory, learning a little bit about what a key was, and kind of set me on the right path. And then I spent a lot of time, this is when I was probably 16. I was young, right? So the reason why I found music theory to be something I wanted to get into was because, first of all, I didn't know what I was doing at all with the guitar. I could play stuff, but I didn't know anything. It's like I knew a bunch of pre-recorded. It's like I could read a great speech, and then if you asked me if I knew what any of it meant, I'd say, or if I read a speech in a different language, what did you just say? It's the words.
Yeah.
Because I'd be I would learn. I would learn an Yngwie thing, or a Van Halen thing, or a Stevie Ray Vaughan line or something. Oh, cool. This one, let's jam in G. And I was like, I can't. I don't know.
Okay.
So for me, it was more so I wanted to learn the language. I would always have people around me talking, a piano player saying, okay, this C chord has a sharp 11 in it. And you look at me and go, okay, so we'll play. And I was like, what the hell? Who's Lydian? Who is she? And so I wanted to learn how to speak the language, because I didn't always just want to play with guitar players. You want to play with a piano guy, or you want a piano player, or a drummer who knows theory. Or I always loved string arrangement. So I wanted to at some point work with musicians who didn't have frets. I couldn't use the word fret. Fourth fret. I can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
But what happened as well was, again, because same thing with guitar. I developed an affinity with guitar, and I developed a rapport with music theory that wasn't the scary, soul-sucking sort of Mel Bay method. It's very, very dry and very, very boring, and you're being marked, and you're getting assignments marked, and you're seeing where you did wrong, and all this stuff. I just kind of figured out a way to apply the music theory in bite-sized things. Every time something was illuminated, I would use it. What does it sound like? What in my playing? How can I use it? And if I didn't like it and I didn't use it, I learned it, but I eliminate it. It's gone. I don't need it. And this is, I actually do, not to go into plugging something, but I actually do this thing called homework, which is what all of that is based off of, is how I learned all of this stuff. And I have this weekly subscription called Homework, and that's basically what I put out every week. Is like part of this puzzle.
Where do people? Is this on your site, on your website?
It's on the website. Yeah, it's on the website. My nickjohnstonmusic.com. Anyway, so the theory thing, it became, again, it was like one of those things I loved doing, and I would spend hours. I remember being in the lunchroom at school and writing out chord formulas, and I'm in history class writing out, okay, if I wanted to write out 13th chords in the key of F, and I'd write out the intervals and the harmony, and then I'd what if you break down a dominant chord, what do you get? You like a major, and then you get a diminished triad on top of that. And you just start figuring out all this stuff. Because even when I didn't have the guitar, I still wanted to be in that mindset. I was such an obsessed. It's funny, I forget all this stuff, right? I don't remember until you bring it up. Like if I wasn't playing it, I was still studying it, but more pen to paper kind of stuff, And I didn't really know anybody like that, so I had a hard time relating to anybody with that stuff. But I just, man, you find something you love at that age. At 15, it becomes your identity. It really does. I knew people that were into punk music, so they had a mohawk, and they had piercings, and they wore Dead Kennedy shirts, and their clothes were black and baggy. It's like it becomes your identity. I loved the guitar style that I loved. So I had long hair, and I talked about guitar as much as I could. I worked on music theory because I wanted to do what these guys were doing. I wanted to talk to music. Like, it just became my identity. It really did. And I still have a hard time shutting that off. Sometimes it's really interesting. It's a constant kind of battle.
Oh, where you struggle to have a life outside of that.
Yeah, exactly. Because those are your formative years too. Those are the years where you form habits, and because it wasn't driven by money, because I didn't obviously make any money off it for a very, 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 very long time. It wasn't ever associated with pain or suffering or paying the bills on time or having a bad session experience or having someone who didn't pay me on time. All this shit. It was just pure love, and for some people it's food. They eat when they're stressed, or they play video games to escape, or they whatever. My thing was just guitar or music. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And I whatever you've done, I know how thorough you must have done it, because you got 5 amazing records, man. This isn't like,
thank you.
Not like one was really good and the others are like, okay. You've put out really great quality.
Oh, thank you, man. And that's even what's even interesting about that. It's like I get really embarrassed you talking about that, because I know that, and I try to take the compliment. I really do, and I truly do appreciate that, because it's nice to hear someone appreciates your work.
Yeah.
But it's also like it's not good enough. It's just not.
Yeah,
it's not good enough, and the next stuff has to be. And I don't mean the playing is good enough. I don't care about. That's the funny distinction now. Is it's not even the playing. The playing is what it is. The playing snapshot. That's as good as I could do when I was that age. Whatever, you move on.
Right.
It's more so the musical. It's the content. It's like, did that theme develop properly? Was the production good? Did I pay enough attention to the mixing? And
yes,
at a point you kind of just have to go. It is what it is, and it's fine. And if you listen to all 5 of my records in succession, which if you're interested in hearing a confused musician to a confused musician again,
no, I would encourage
records.
I did, and it was really great to do that. It was
so
really
funny.
Yeah.
The first album compared to the 5th one.
Of course.
The idea is that you don't want to peak ever, right?
Of
and
course.
There's certain albums you hear that it was like that was their first record was their best. My first record, in a lot of ways, I have extreme fondness of, but at the other side of it, you're like, what a hunk of shit, because I made that record. I didn't have any money. I made that record. It was live. It's a live album,
That's
the studio,
awesome.
you know. So, but I didn't know how to make an album. I had no clue. No one showed me how to do that. And shame on me. Maybe I should have paid more attention. But at the same time, it's like, you have to have that. It's like an old grainy photograph, and then you look at the new one. It's like it's a 4K,
Yeah.
4K hour-long HBO special versus
Yeah.
what you first put out. It's a different thing, right? And even the new one, you're like, oh shit, I'm 5 albums from now, hopefully that one has the same effect on me.
Yeah.
It's always getting better. But
yeah, I think it's a trap. I think that's a deadly trap. I understand it only too well. And I probably need to like listen to this advice to myself, but I think it's a deadly trap because it's not possible. It's just not possible that
of course,
it's just literally, I mean, especially when you're operating on such a high level, if you get a 0.5% better, man, that's a hell of a lot at the level where you're operating already, you know, or in anybody that's at your level in any profession.
I think what it is at this point is it's not so much just the music. I think what it is it's the entire, like, I treat it, it's like a project, like the whole thing, like the writing, the pre-production, who you're working with, the artwork, the rollout, the studio you worked in, how does everybody feel working together? Like, it's everything, like that's like, there were a lot of hiccups in that respect with the last one. And it's like, just moving forward, you just want to tighten, you just want to try things, because you learn every time. Like I don't have a manager and I don't have agents or anything. So like, it's a lot of moving pieces that a lot
of moving parts that you got to handle.
I forget sometimes what to do, and I forget, oh shit, I forgot to do this, and I left that to the last minute because there's not enough hours in the day sometimes. So it's just like you want to have a better kind of you don't want to have wide eyes in the dark, which is essentially where that name came from. you want to have just more of a centered look on everything, which is hard, man. And I'm too young right now to say I know what the hell I'm doing. Because 32, like, I hope to God that's not my best work, because you look at a guy like Jeff Beck who's in his 70s now, and it's like that's when you start to do your best work. It's like you've got a lifetime. You got you have, I know they say 10,000 hours is where you're a master, but I've done 20,000. I'm not a master of anything, right? It's just like you're just now understanding. You have a good grasp on something, and now you can kind of go, all right, I can make decisions now. And then that's when you start to go, was it a good decision? Was it a bad decision? Was that a freak accident? I don't know. So, for me, it's like 5 albums is it's fucking nothing. It's like, that was only a decade. I did the first one in 2011. The last one came out in 2019. We're just getting started.
Good, man. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Also, too, don't always keep in mind what I've learned anyway. Smart, you're a bright person in general. So smart people tend to realize how little they know, and stupid, in my experience, it's the stupid people that think they know everything.
Oh God, yeah, I know nothing.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that when you're bright, you're always going to look at it like that. Like, I don't know anybody that's bright that says, man, I've totally got my shit together. There's nothing left. I don't know anybody that's smart that like actually thinks that. Everybody's pretty much, man, I have a lot to learn. I'm grateful that I could always improve. It's more like what you're saying,
Yeah.
I think that's much healthier.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. That's really cool. I think at the end of the day too, if you're not doing it, especially with what I'm doing, because there's no one breathing down my neck to get an album out, or there's no, I don't need to tour. Like, that's not a thing. If it's not done for the right reason, meaning I don't have anything to say, then just don't say anything. Just wait till you have some new information to present, some new research to some new findings to present. That's the whole thing. I actually love right now the idea of presenting something with a completely different instrumentation. Obviously, guitar is still there, but like, I haven't done anything with brass. I haven't done anything with slide guitar. I haven't done anything with like percussion. there's just so many woodwinds. I haven't done anything with orchestral. Like, man, the list goes on, right? Like I could do.
Do you play keys? I was curious. That's when I was.
Yeah.
I had a. Yeah. That's you playing keyboard on yours.
It's some of it. A lot of it is like the more dense, heavy stuff. Remarkably Human was all a friend of mine. Luke Martin played so the thing with the keys is I write all the music on the piano, all of it. And I do the best I can, and I fill out the harmony. I play all the melodies, and I'm a functional piano player, and I can do all that. And then I send it. It's like anything, right? Like I can write the drum MIDI, just a basic MIDI, and then I'll send it to a real drummer, and he'll play drums on it. It's the same thing. Who was
the drummer on the last record? Was it Marco?
A German drummer named Benny Greb.
Okay, it was fantastic.
The cool thing about that was he played this on this progressive kind of rock album, but he's a jazz drummer, so everything had a bit of a swing to it.
Oh,
which I don't typically hear in a lot of that music. I think it's really cool to have a guy dragging a foot behind a little bit with like a fusion kind of style. Anyway, so I do write for all these instruments, and I do play piano. I love playing piano. I'm not very good at it, but I compose, and then I send it. The last, like Wide Eyes, a friend of mine, Eric Gunther, played. He plays keyboards in a band called The Contortionist, and he did all the sound design and key sections for that. He basically took what I had and was like, okay, this is cool. Let me just do my, it's like any good session musician would do, right? They'd say, this is good. Let me just elevate it with my expertise. And I kind of I get out of their way. I don't tell anybody what to do. Like, have fun.
Yeah.
Do what you want. Make the music better, please.
Well, all the other all the other instruments sound great, honestly. I mean, especially the drums on the last record. It was just phenomenal. I thought it was maybe Marco Miniman on that, to be honest with you.
No, he played on Atomic Mind.
Okay.
And that was the one he did, yeah. So that was 2014. He played on that one. Yeah. What a monster.
Oh, incredible. Man, look, how did you, like, what was the first, like, in the music business, what was your first foray into the music business? Outside of, like, gigging in the middle of nowhere in Canada.
Business. Wow.
Like, how'd you start making records?
Okay. How do I start making records was a huge question. I didn't have an answer to. I think what I did initially was I looked to the past, like I looked at what people did, because there was tons of instrumental reference. There was this was 2010 when I started. 2009 when I did the first version, and of the alt demos. There was decades of it. Whether or not you go as far back to Blow by Blow, or you go, to the 80s boom of all that stuff, or even jazz music, like it's all instrumental music. Like, okay, I'll just do, write a bunch of music, put a band together, fund it, and then mix it, master it, done. But the whole thing was like, I don't have enough money, so I don't know anything about production, I don't know anything about advertising, I don't know anything about merch, like all this stuff. And I didn't have a Facebook page, I didn't have Instagram. There was no Instagram, I don't think. Maybe there was.
Not in 2010.
No Facebook. I had no YouTube, no Instagram, no Twitter, no whatever. There's none of that for me.
You're pretty mellow on that stuff in general.
Yeah. I don't. Well, we'll get into that too.
Yeah, no, which I dig, because to be honest, I mean, thank God. I mean, because like I don't want to get into tangent, but I was like, I don't usually hop on social. I'm like on social media for 5 minutes here and there. Yeah. It's so horrible now, man. It's like walking through a nest of thorns, man. It's just so
really bad. It's really
so
really
negative.
Intense. Really intense. It's also
it's not social at all.
Wow, that's, oh man, isn't that true?
It's not like, when I think of social, I think, hey man, how you doing? Like, let me connect with my buddies. Like,
yeah.
And I'm a pretty. It's not like haven't been around the block, but I'm like.
Social media was, for me growing up, was we were all sitting around playing a video game together. That was social media.
Yeah.
That was the best social media, or watching a movie and talking shit, right? But the whole thing for me was I'd written a whole bunch of music and I wanted to do something with it. So I asked a few friends, like, what's a good spot to go to in the area, and I went in with the bass player and we live tracked the whole album in a day because that's all the money I had. And I remember we stood face to face in the tracking room, like cueing each other. We had a click going, and the engineer didn't want to use a click because he thought it was too modern. I was like, "Oh, we're using a click." He's like, "All right, I guess." He was an old school guy, you know. And then this was my first instance where I wanted a specific drummer, so I just figured, well, what the hell? I'd play on someone's album. I'll see if they'll play on my album. So I emailed this guy I'd been following a little bit through his records and his playing, and see interviews with him on the internet. A guy named Travis Orban. He's a really cool drummer, and he played on the first album. And then I had it done and mixed and mastered it. I didn't do anything myself because, again, I didn't know how to do it. Put a bit of money into it, and then I met this really cool dude in the area who did the artwork for the first 4 albums, Mark Raycop.
Yeah, your artwork's
really
pretty cool. So I read something that, like, you're into comics.
Yeah, not as much as I used to be, but I was a very, very avid collector and subscriber for years, man, many years.
You know, there's I used to collect comics when I was a kid, and I'm almost positive one of the services I bought comics from, one was in Colorado, but I'm almost positive one was out of Canada. I couldn't tell you the name of it now, but
yeah, I don't think I know. But yeah, I was super into it for a little while there, and yeah, I just thought it would have been cool at the time. It was a big interest of mine, so I figured it'd be interesting to tie that into the music and kind of create a bit of a world. And then what happened was I released it, and I bought a website domain, Nick Johnston Music, and put all that together. And you know, it's kind of indie looking, and it's fine. Serves a purpose, and no one bought it. So I realized I was
you
like,
bummed?
oh, no. It was a very, very good wake up call, or very, very, very important wake up call, and a very nice reality check that. And I still say this all the time to people. It's like nobody has to care, but like there's so much music every day, and there's so much stuff coming out every single day. I mean, even just like look at Netflix, for example, like the amount of quality they're pumping out. How many of those shows do you see? Maybe your net will catch 2 of those shows. Like I mentioned, I watched The Last Dance, but I've seen all these other things come out since then. I probably won't ever watch them because I just won't get to it. And it's the same thing with music. It's like you go on Spotify or Apple Music, you just see the new releases for the day. You're like, nah, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm gonna blah, blah. And maybe, who knows why you chose that album, but at a time where I don't think was Spotify around 2011?
No.
Apple Music wasn't around 2011. It was still iTunes, right?
Yeah, iTunes was around.
iTunes, of course, but the streaming music subscription stuff was not around. I do know that.
Napster.
Unless it was, yeah, and my stuff didn't catch fire because that first record's not outrageous. It's not. It's like kind of bluesy, and what was really popular at the time for instrumental music was that term, was the gent shit, all that gent music, the 7-string and the everyone playing a Petrucci Music Man guitar. That was really hot. It was very, very hot at the time.
It's funny because I'm looking at your first record here, and there's some great, Public Display of Infection, Wanders, Moonwaltz, Drive It Like It's Stolen. There's some great tracks on there, man.
Yeah, there's fun stuff on there. But yeah, like it bombed, right? It didn't do anything. It was kind of a flop, and I was like, well, why wouldn't it have been a flop? Like I didn't put any work into the infrastructure of the project,
Well, when you say it was a flop, just because people, and this is the thing, the business side of music, people have to know, you got to have a list or a following.
Of course.
Yeah, if you have no no one's going to buy it because
right?
Yeah, it's like I made this best product in the world and no one's buying it. Well, is it in the stores? No. Do you have a website? I do. Did you get people there? No.
Exactly. So that's when you start to put two and two together, right? You go, well, how now what?
Yeah.
So I did the next album. I did this record called In a Locked Room on the Moon, and because of the first one and because of the honesty of that music, it really was just music. It was just honest music. I don't need to say anything else besides that. The music was kind of a bit of a calling card, and I was able to get in touch with a couple of guitar players I really liked at the time, Guthrie Govan and Paul Gilbert. I managed to get them to play on my next album, which
Atomic
I
Mind.
thought, okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, In a Locked Room on the Moon.
Okay. Oh, they played on that. Okay.
Yeah, they played on that album. So, and then there was a studio I really liked in the States because a couple albums had come out of there I thought was cool, and I just figured, you know what, I'm gonna up the game a little bit, put everything on my credit card, and I'm just gonna drive. I'm gonna load up my car. Me and a buddy went down to Maryland, to a city called Bethesda, Maryland. There's a big military base there, I believe.
Yes,
so it's a cool little quiet town, older community. It was just very peaceful and chill to the studio, and I pretty much lived in this guy's basement because I didn't have anywhere to stay when I was there, and it was in January, so everybody was really sick, and
it was probably freezing
it was a really bad experience. I'm not even gonna lie, but I put myself out there, and I was like, I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna leave the country to make an album, and then you learn more, right? You learn more about working with new people and being in uncomfortable situations, but making it work. And that album had Sand Monster and In a Locked Room on the Moon, and Even If It Takes a Lifetime. But the cool thing about that was I met a bunch of other musicians by chance. There's a band called Periphery that.
Misha.
Yeah, Misha. I met the singer of that band.
Him on the show a while back. Yeah.
Oh, you had it. Cool. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Because I played on one of their albums because of the singer came to the studio the last day of recording, just by chance, and because he lived in the area, and
because they're out of DC, aren't they?
Or
they were.
I don't actually know.
Yeah,
I think they've all
Dallas
moved
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Mark was in Dallas. Matt was in Baltimore. Spencer was in Silver Spring or something like. Doesn't matter. He was in the area regardless, and he liked the project, and he asked me to start a band with him. And U.S. Canadian distance made it hard for rehearsal, so that didn't really go anywhere. But what I'm trying to say is because I put myself in that position to go and do this thing that was out of my comfort zone and out of my price range and was extremely risky, essentially, I made a contact that kind of changed a lot of the progression of how my career was going to go. So it was happenstance and coincidence. And then I ended up doing a bunch of guest solo work, and my name shifted around the internet quite a bit because of a few chain reaction things. But going back, my first sort of toe in the pond with the music business was working with people who can make you better. Was like, well, okay, that's a big thing. Help cross branding. If you play on this guy's thing, his fans might hear you, and if they like what you do, they'll like that kind of stuff. But it was kind of innocent, right? Because I didn't know anybody, so I couldn't be aggressive about it. I couldn't like, oh, I'm gonna play on this. I didn't know anybody. So just there's all that, but then I think the other side of it is when it's time to deliver. It's like hopefully you can deliver. So it's like you put that work in, and now you can do all this stuff. And then you just learn, right? I had a website and I had a YouTube channel at that point. I made a couple of videos, and I started to see the difference it would make. And okay, people like this song, or they enjoy that. And it was still very small and modest and innocent. And then I could tell you the whole story, but then it went to the 2014 when I was making this album called Atomic Mind. And just through people I knew and through people I'd met, I was able to get the members of the Aristocrats as my band, essentially. Brian Beller and Marco Miniman were the rhythm section, and Guthrie did a bunch of guest solos. So I essentially had them. And
it's a pretty good backing band.
It was cool, yeah. And so they shared the music around, and it got some heat. And
okay.
What happened right at that time was there was a guy working for Seymour Duncan, a guy named Keith Merrow, who's now a very successful solo artist and has a model with Schecter as well. He was working at Seymour Duncan. He was like, man, he loved that song Atomic Mind. He really liked it. He basically
it's
sent
a great
that song around.
Thank
you, man. He sent that around the office.
Just fucking amazing.
Thank you, man. He sent that around the office, and that essentially got me hooked up with them. They wanted, because nobody, here's the other thing, nobody was playing a Strat in this instrumental world at all. Nobody was playing single coil. So Seymour Duncan looked at that as an opportunity to go, wow, we don't have anybody showcasing single coil pickups. So we'll use this guy and we'll fly him to NAMM and we'll get him to perform at our booth. And he'll be the spokesperson for the Texas Hot pickup. And I signed a deal with them about that. And it was just like, oh, okay. So I guess what I learned there was like, oh, wow, I'm actually doing something kind of a little bit different because people are seeing value in this. Whether or not it's good is irrelevant. It's just people saw value in it.
Yeah.
And then I was playing Fender guitars at the time just because I always had. Keith was working with Schecter and he goes, man, have you tried the Schecter guitar? And I was like, no, I never played a Schecter guitar because I thought of them as metal guitars, you know, Pop Roach, Crazy Town, all these bands were playing the Diamond Series, all the Warped Tour bands, the hardcore and punk bands and stuff like that. But then they sent me their version of a Stratocaster, which is called the Traditional, and I loved it. It was the best guitar I ever played by far. I still have it, the black one I used to play. It's the one I'm playing in the Atomic Mind video.
I got to tell you that every guitar they have really made some beautiful Strat colors that, like, I don't know why Fender, well, we're not going to make these colors unless it's a $5,000 custom guitar.
Yeah, no, I picked these colors too, so it's like these are the ones I want. So
dude, they're
like,
awesome. Fucking every time you play, I want one, and I'm like, I can't play like you, but I just, you know, it's like I have that 335. I can't play like Freddie King either, but I bought it. They're just like that powder blue, then, and then
oh man,
what is that? It's not Fiesta red. It's like,
oh, it's orange. That's an orange guitar.
Oh man, they're so, and you have a green one, man. They are awesome. Every
green
color,
and pink and white, and we're doing a couple new ones too. But he got me hooked up with Schecter, and then again, because Schecter, no one was playing the single coils. No one was playing single coils with Schecter. Nobody. I came on, and they made me, essentially, without sounding too cheesy, but they made me the face of the custom shop because they rebooted the custom shop around me.
Good for you.
Because they're like, so it's just weird timing though, right? Because like that was just what they were about to do. So the custom shop was here, my career was here, very low, and it started to grow together. And then they took that as an opportunity. And thank God there's this really wonderful, one of my best friends in the entire universe. Ryan Martin works at Fender. He's their international guy. And he took me and he essentially became my what they're calling, like, without him being a manager, he became the closest thing to a manager. And he you know, Schecter really gave me a career. They gave me the career. You know, without them, I would still have music coming out. I'd still do this stuff, but they put me in front of people. They took me on the road. They taught me the music business. Like, I know shit that I maybe shouldn't know. Like, I know how the guitar industry works. I know how guitars are sold. I know how distribution chains and dealer. I know all this shit. And it's interesting and it's really, really valuable knowledge, especially when you have a signature model and the value of being in a meeting with people in a different part of the world that are considering taking on your guitar line and doing a guitar clinic. And you just learn all this stuff, right? And then just having that relationship with a company in general, it's not normal. It's very unusual in the industry. It just is. And then
yeah, but likewise, I think it's pretty reciprocal because you probably put them on the map and keep them on the map for that line of, what did you call it? The traditional.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt.
I know. Look at you, man.
So I love, you know, I truly would do anything for that. I really would, man.
That's awesome.
They're absolutely family. So that, and then that turned into, because he took me on the road, and the first thing I did with Schecter was they took me to China and Hong Kong and a few Asian countries to start showing off the guitar I was playing. Then one day he came to me, he just was like, hey man, that was really fun. We had a great time, good hangs. Let's do a signature model. I was like, really? So
are they built where are they built? Are they built in China or Indonesia or Korea or?
My custom shop model is built in Sun Valley, California,
Awesome.
and then the Diamond series is built in Indonesian factory.
Very cool.
Which is where a lot of the, name a company now, that's where their guitars are made.
Yeah,
like
a lot of companies.
one of the big factories. But really, it was like all of that stuff. I'm condensing it to a very short burst of words, but all of that stuff was learned over, 2020 now, it's 2011, like a decade of just seeing it slowly grow and set back and finances I didn't have, and taking a risk and trying this and trying that, being open. And another side of it is like I never did any drugs. I didn't really drink, so I was always like able to perform. I was always good in meetings. When I was talking to the right people. Yeah. yeah. I don't know. I was always just I was really, really ready to go. Like I was just ready to go, man. I was ready to learn, and I tried to be as open and spongy as I could. And even now, like I still have so much to learn about the business. But I guess what's changed though is just I don't take it as, I'm not as like, oh, I gotta say yes to everything. I said yes to everything for 10 years, yes, I'll do it. Do you want, I mean, I would do gigs that you would be like, you did that? Yep.
That's normal in any business. Yeah, you're an entrepreneur, and a lot of guys don't realize that. And like any entrepreneur, you got to hustle and you got to say, yeah.
And some people just don't, like, I know tons of people that won't do that because they just either feel like because they had a video that got 1 million views, they should get, like, nobody gives a shit. Everyone gets 1 million views now. Like everyone's using the internet. So everyone's on YouTube all the time. 1 million views is nothing. It's just nothing. So it's like that. And then even then it's like,
well, okay, it's something, but it's not necessarily like you can't go into the grocery store and say, hey, I think half of my 1 million views probably covered today's, it's like big deal. I remember when I first started this show, I had this young kid on. And he goes, make sure you tell everybody my video got 500,000 streams. I said, I'm not going to tell anybody that. If you want to discuss it, you can, because I mean, you probably made enough to buy milk with that. I mean, I'm nothing disrespectful against you, but you want to talk about that. Go ahead. Right.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. I think what's more valuable in that is just, it's not sitting back and looking at the views and be like, good. It's more so being like, okay, I was happy with the work. I'm happy with the response, but it's like, now let's go back to work. It's like, but it doesn't hold a lot of weight with me. It doesn't hold much weight with me.
Yeah. But one thing you did, which was really good, is, and you said this a few times, you put yourself out there doing different things, and nothing and I think that's what I would like people to take away from this, is that I don't care what you're doing. We're happening to be talking about musicianship and guitar, anything in life. If you want a girlfriend, but you never leave the house to ask someone on a date, it ain't going to work. You got to put yourself out there and do stuff that's uncomfortable and give things a shot.
Yeah, that's really, and even touring, I mean, it's miserable at the best of times, and just the finances involved in that. It's like the risk you hold is just, it's insane, but you're like, I gotta do it, or else I'm not performing this music that I wrote in front of people. I'm not meeting new fans, and maybe I'll learn something new that night, or I'll have an experience. Sometimes it's like the experience of it. It's like I'll have an experience that will make me, change my outlook on the entire music industry, or I'll learn all these new things. Like that's what I value. It's just,
the experience making. You're living life, man. You can't.
It really is important.
Yeah, it's I had. Do you happen to remember? The band, the Georgia Satellites?
I know the name. Yeah,
they had this big hit, "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." It was like kind of like a.
Oh, I'm sure I've heard it. Yeah.
Anyway, I had Dan Baird on. He was the founder of the band, the guy who wrote the songs and sang, and one of the guitar players, and he was doing some gig after the Satellites, and he's like Dan Baird. He's like really successful, lovely guy, but he said this on the show. I'm not saying off color, but he said, Craig, I was a touring guitarist for this artist. We'd come home after 4 days on the road. I'd give my wife $50. And he goes, there was no, and he goes, and they were sleeping 4 to a room.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And he goes, I love the music. I loved every minute. It was the best music I've ever played in my life. So yeah, I get what you're saying. It's tough, man. It's a knot, and touring is very hard. Very difficult.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'll tell you this, for the way I've set things up, I think this is also something for younger, if there's maybe younger listening to this too, or in a position that they don't necessarily want to spend their life touring. Like I've set up my career by, owning what I do and have treated my music and assets and my guitars and stuff like this. Like touring actually doesn't, like financially it doesn't have any place in business model for me. Touring doesn't matter for my bottom line. Like I don't need it, which is kind of cool because, you've managed to just generate enough of content that will continue garnering new fans, and you own all of it, and you haven't made any of these kind of weird decisions based on impulse of, okay, I'll sign this deal, and they ultimately end up doing it, but they put me on the road, so that's cool, and I make all this merch money and blah blah. It's like I don't want to find myself in a position to go on the road because I have to make money. I want to go on the road because I want to be on the road. That's the distinction I think that needs to be made a lot of times. To go on the road for your mortgage is a bad place to be, because when you meet people, you don't want to be there. You're not having good shows. You just count the hours down. Can't wait to get back to the bus. Can't wait to get to the Wi-Fi. I can't wait to call my wife and complain, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Versus, man, we're going on the road for a month. It's going to be great. I need this break. I need this vacation. We're going to play everything. It's going to be awesome. That's the difference. That's the distinction, I think. And that's an important one to remember,
What made you, like, how did you get hip to that? Because that's not necessarily usual. Most, the model is, which is why, unfortunately, the business has been so devastated now that, because nobody's touring because of COVID. I make a record and then I tour and get my merch money for a year and a half or a year, whatever. That was a conscious decision you had to make.
It was yes and no. It was something that kind of happened through not knowing what the next step was, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that uncertainty. I didn't like having to rely. And even now, like if I do get offered a tour, or I don't get offered as many tours as maybe some guys, blah blah blah, whatever. But the point being, again, it goes back to that organized sports thing where it's like, I don't want people to tell me if I can work or not. That's what it is. If it's like, oh, you got to go on tour, okay, well now I need bus driver, I need crew, I need manager, I need tour manager. It's just like the list of shit. Exactly, the list of shit goes on, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I can't do any of this without. First is, I can do everything else on my own, and I had a skill set that I figured, you know what, why can't I monetize this? Why can't I make this into essentially a product? And a lot of that came. So that's a lot of that.
So your homework was what you've done.
The homework's new. That started in December. So I'm talking like 5 or 6 years ago when all it started. I realized too that I looked at myself and what I was doing as a fan, and that was, if I liked an artist, I bought everything they did. Bought every solo record they did. I bought T-shirt. I bought poster. I even at one point I had a Steve Vai guitar because I liked the Bad Horsey guitar. He did that mirrored one. I was like, that's fun, cool. Yeah. So like, point being, I had developed enough of a fan base, a very small, it's still very small, very, very small, very small niche, but they support me. And I figured if you have enough of those, then they can't come see you anyways, because some of them live in Europe, some of them live in Asia. Sure. If you're doing a Canadian tour, a US tour, they're not going to be at the show anyway. So what, you can't have them support you? So that's when I started doing things like I offered the backing track to my songs, tabs. I offered lessons. I have a guitar. I have this homework thing. I have this instructional series I did called Intuition. I just started to look at it as these people can't see me live anyways, but they like the music. They stream the music. They buy the CDs. I still ship CDs personally. I sign them.
Right
personally,
on,
right?
man.
Still got to do that, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I mean, touring, it is great when you want it, when you're there for the right reason. It is fabulous. But I never wanted to have someone tell me you can work or you can't work. It's just not in my nature. And also touring, I'm type 1 diabetic. Like I don't.
Oh,
it's
wow.
so hard it's so hard on you, right? Like the ups and downs and the
Yeah,
blood sugar,
the lack of regular feedings, man. That has got to be tough. Yeah,
it's tough. And you know, I have, you know, and now I'm in a relationship and I have it's very serious, and you know, I'm with this really wonderful girl, and I want to make sure that doesn't go to shit. You know, we've been dating for a year and a half or so, and it's like,
good for you, man.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, you know, I'm just trying to make life less hectic and look after my health and relationships and think about the future. And you know, I bought a house, so it's like, okay, I want to make sure I'm not just going off for a month and not knowing if I'm gonna make any money. Like, there's just a lot of shit that you can do that when you're 20 and get in a van and be fine with that and not care. But I'm, you know, in my 30s now. It's like, maybe I don't need to run myself ragged anymore, and I don't say yes to everything, and I can be a little smarter. And I want to get into, so I'm doing this other record, just to kind of transition off that. I'm doing this other record with a friend of mine, and we're both singing on the album.
Oh, I was gonna ask you before we wrapped up. At some point today, are you gonna be singing? That's cool to hear.
Yeah. So I'm so just real quick backstory. I had a buddy that lived 2 houses down, and we're the same age, and he moved in when he was 16, and we didn't work on music. We didn't really hang out just because we went to different schools and life and whatever. We didn't really hang out ever. A few times here and there, but we didn't really hang out and start to talk about music until October of this year, which is crazy, right? It was that long.
Crazy.
Half our lives went by, just timing and whatever. And I was down in his studio, and I was just hacking out some ideas on the piano, and he was just, yeah, I'm working on this thing, and I finished the song with him in like 10 minutes, and he was singing on it. And he's like, oh, wow, that was really cool. He's like, that was something there. And I didn't think anything of it. And then a couple of days later, I went over to his place, and I went down. I had my acoustic. I'm like, hey, see what happened with this. And I had this old song I'd written years ago, and I was singing the melody line for him, just like, you know, humming it. And he goes, oh man, well, let's put some lyrics to that. And we both sang it. And then it came to the chorus part, and I like, cause I don't have perfect pitch, but I can hear the harmonies pretty easily now, but just because of the years of writing music and understanding the mode and the pitch and the interval. So I started singing the harmony part on top, and it was just like,
it worked.
I mean, a bomb went off, man. And we've been doing the COVID thing stopped us for a couple months, of course, but we're back to we do 2 sessions a week, and we've written an album, and the drums are done. And I was supposed to be in the studio this month to finish the album, but it's going to be moved to August, and I'm going to try and release it in the late fall, early 2021. But yeah, it's like, it's a rock album where we're both, you know, certain songs I sing, certain songs he sings.
That's cool, man.
We do together. So it's like another thing where it's like, oh man, I have no idea if I want to ever go on the road with it. It's just, maybe we will, I don't know, but we're just doing it for the love of it, and for the sake of making new music, and just seeing if we can turn it into something cool. And you know, we keep writing. We have probably 2 or 3 albums worth of material. It's ridiculous. And I say this to him every time. Ben, his name is Ben Reagan. Shout out to Ben if he's listening. He's kind of one of the most amazing, not only people but musicians I've ever worked with, because it's truly effortless with someone like that. We will sit down, and 10 minutes we'll have a new song, and we just kind of look at each other, and it's hilarious. It's like, how I've never had this. I've never experienced this with anybody, and to have done all this instrumental music alone and have written it all alone and do that whole thing alone. Now, working with someone and sharing the load, and he comes with an idea and I finish it, or I come with an idea and he finishes it together in the same room at a piano. He's got his notebook and we're writing lyrics on the fly. We're finishing melodies. It's just like, man, this has got to be the next decade of my life.
Well, this is the next evolution here, man. Everything's pretty much, been like that. It sounds like for you, like, the next step comes when the next step comes, but you're open to it, which is great.
That's right. Putting yourself out there. Like I don't know how the singing, I don't know how that's going to turn out. But I don't care either. It's like, I don't give a shit. It's fun. But I'm still, I have another instrumental album I've almost finished now. I've almost finished writing it. So I'm going to do that, of course. But for the sake of like experimenting and putting yourself out there and trying something new and developing new fans and all this stuff, I needed to do this. Like this, because I thought of it. I looked at myself from a different perspective. I'm like, am I going to be just doing instrumental? Is that all I'm ever going to do? Like, that would be a shame if all I ever did was make instrumental fucking guitar music. Like, that's tragic. I think that's tragic. So I needed.
Well, that's because you didn't. There was something inside of you that was not finished being satisfied.
Not even close. Not even remotely close. Yeah, there's so much stuff I'm incapable of doing right now, but I am in no rush because I know it will come in time that I want to do. Having this 2 session a week thing where you're accountable for, you put the time in. Did you work on that verse? Did you what's your pitch like now? Is it getting better? Accountable for coming in with a new idea or thinking about that lyric we talked about that wasn't quite the lyric. Like, it's nice because with instrumental stuff, I can work on it 4 a.m. if I want to. I can get up early and work on it. I can stay up late. I can do it in time. I just chip away at ideas, sing the idea, whatever I want to do. There's another person involved. Your schedule needs to match his schedule. You need to find.
Yeah, you have accountability, man, and responsibility.
Yeah, and I know that's exactly. And I know that's obvious that some people that are listening that play in bands are like, well, no shit, man, of course. But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I had never done it. And it would be the same thing. If your band is gone, now you're the guy writing all the music. Maybe some people are like, well, how the fuck do you do that? Like, how do you know when the song's done? It's like, you learn.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the opposite. I'm learning workflow, and I'm learning working with a different person and how our voices mesh. And it is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done with music.
That's really cool.
And it's not even done yet. So it is by far the most fulfilling thing. It is nothing short of, we're down there working. I'm just saying, I cannot believe this is happening now in my life. I can't believe it.
That's cool, man.
It's just, yeah, and we're actually working tonight. So I'm very, very excited about that.
That's awesome, man. I'm really happy. That's good.
Thank you, man. So yeah, that'll come out sometime next year. And we've got a band name, which I'm gonna keep close to the chest for now. I'm happy with the band name. That was a big step. Like, yeah, that's a cool name. Yeah, man. I should send you. I'll send you a couple songs.
Send me some tracks. I'd like to check it out.
I would love to hear. To hear what you think, man. That'd be really cool to get your thoughts on that. It's kind of like it's all guitars on every song. Not every song has a lead. Like, a lot of it's just support. It's kind of got like an English feel to it. Some of it's Pink Floydy, some of it's 90s-ish sounding. Some of it's big and dramatic. Some of like I love the big dramatic harmony sometimes. And he has a much more kind of robust, fuller voice than I do. He's got like some grit in his voice. The guy is just an energetic powerhouse. He also has a project which I think people should check out. He's got a single out under the moniker of Villas and Vistas. You should check that out.
Villas and Vistas.
Yeah, but anyways, that sounds like totally different than what we're. And I guess that's the thing too, man. And I heard you and Mike talking about this today on that repost. He said something about how Yeah, how the
You know
side
what? You guys are
project.
kind of similar in like you're both really have your shit together and you're pretty young. I mean, I really have so much
Yeah,
respect. Yeah.
Mike's got it going on for sure, and
Yeah.
he much like myself too. He's done more traveling than you should ever do ever.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah.
he was supposed to be here. In fact, I emailed him this morning.
Where are you again?
I'm in Tampa.
You're in Tampa, right?
He
Sorry.
he was supposed to be here like, I don't know, 8 months ago, and we were going to hang out. And I said, God, like a lot's changed since we were supposed to connect in Tampa, huh? It's
Yeah,
like the whole world is upside down. Like,
yeah.
who would have
I should see. I
imagined
should hit
anyways?
him up because he must be getting a little bit of cabin fever, not being able to get on an airplane.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sure. Plus, he got a new place, and I think it's in the middle of the boonies.
yeah,
But he was in the
yeah,
middle of the boonies before. So
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I think from I've seen some of his posts, this is even more farther removed.
Oh,
Further
fantastic! That's
removed.
great,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
English
yeah,
English countryside. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. He's a
Um,
lovely guy.
Anyway, I'll keep if anyone wants to know what's going on with that, as there's news, I'll post about it. But
One thing I want to point
yeah,
out, if you're okay with it,
sure.
you, I think one of the reasons why you were able to say I'm not going to be dependent on touring is because of your age and your understanding of the internet. Not understanding, I'm not saying you're like, like a web genius, but I just think like for younger cats, it's easy for them to say, man, I'll just do some stuff online. Whereas now I've been in business for like a long time. I've had a bunch of e-commerce stuff. So I'm familiar with it. Most musicians that are, let's say 40 and up are just not. And the
I know
older,
it's tough.
and like
Yeah, it's tough.
they can't conceive of that because it's just not, it's not something they grew up with.
That's right. Yeah,
and,
that's right.
and I give you a lot of credit for that, for setting up. And let me just tell people too,
Oh yeah,
uh,
sure.
Nick's last name is Johnston with an STO, and so it's Nick
With a
Johnston,
T, yeah.
JOHNSTON. So you could find all
Not
this.
Eric, not Eric Johnson.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
Nick
his brother or
Johnston
sister.
Music. Yeah,
This
it's
hair, I
Nick
could be his sister.
Uh, hey,
Yeah,
hair is good.
Johnston. Ah, ah.
It's funny. One of my kids is like almost your age, and he's like, "Dad, I think I'm losing my hair." I'm like, "Well, here you go, man. You know what you're gonna look
Yeah.
like."
Who gives a shit? Shave
Oh,
that.
I've been. Yeah, I
Gives
don't
a
care.
fuck, man.
No, I don't give a shit
Same.
about that.
If mine starts going, it's gone. Just gone. I don't give a shit.
There you
Just
go.
hair. It's just hair. I love the old. I remember some musician told me. I forget who it was, but he goes, there used to be a saying back in his scene when he was older than me. He's like around your age. He goes, no wig, no gig.
That's got to be terrible though. But I know
I was like,
guys, especially like in Nashville, they lose gigs because
didn't look cool enough or something.
yeah, right. They didn't look cool enough, or they're old.
Yeah,
But
see, that's a great version of I don't want anyone else to tell me I can work or not. That is the ultimate version of that.
yeah,
No hair, I
absolutely.
can't work. That's like the perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible. Yeah. I don't care about shit like that either, but a lot of people do.
Yeah. Sure, man, of course.
All right. So I have a lot of shit to ask you though.
Sure. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Remarkably Human. That is
Right.
that's when I first got turned on to you, and that came out. And,
Right.
it's just an amazing. I thought it was one of the best instrumental records I've ever heard until I heard, Atomic Mind.
Oh wow, jeez, man, that's high
Yeah,
praise. Thank you,
dude. I
thank
mean,
you.
both Remarkably Human for me anyway, and Atomic Mind. Every track on there is like 5 stars in iTunes. And
Holy crap,
dude, I mean,
Remarkably Human was
great.
the one I think most people that are following kind of my music. That's the one they really jumped on board with, which I can totally understand why. It's the first album that every song sounds like it's in the same world. Or the first album with kind of has a bit of a overall production that works together, and it's the first album where I brought in other instruments before it was just guitar, bass, drums. So we were able to paint in the studio more with like different colors, and the dynamics were different. And I mean, you put on Ignore Alien Orders, that first song, which is just it's a woman from an old sci-fi broadcast talking about
I love that.
monster she saw. And then the piano comes in, you're like, wait, is this the same guy that did In a Locked Room on the Moon? And truthfully, I had always wanted to do an album with piano, but I didn't think I was good enough I just didn't think I was ready, which I will say is a funny kind of pro, like a positivity, because it gave that album such a distinct sound from the previous one.
Yeah.
Because it was
I knew that was you on keyboards too. I don't know how I knew, but I said, this is
oh
Nick
my God,
playing.
that's so funny. Yeah, the guy playing on the record, Luke Martin, shout out to him if you ever listen to this. But I think too, with that album, it also had really simple, like the themes are all very simple. The melodies are all very, very simple and easy to digest, whereas the previous stuff was a little bit more, a little more complicated, more chord changes and denser sounding material, whereas that one was just, it just felt like the previous three were leading to that one. It was like, that's where it had to go.
That's great though. Because then you could feel like your own progress and say, like in everything that you're doing. I want to ask you some. Good. Sorry.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely. It's all you.
I just want to ask you some questions about some of the tracks on there. Like,
sure.
In particular, I have my two favorite songs in there, Impossible Things. There's like a tiny little like jazzy thing in the middle there for a second.
Right.
What's that whole melody of that, the core melody though, is just awesome. Is there like a backstory to that?
No, I thought that was when I was really interested in so the melody is really, really simple, right? Very, very simple. And the harmony is kind of interesting that's going on around it. And that song is a good example of a song that I wrote on the piano, because that, the F minor to the B flat major, that substitution really emphasizes what's the pitch I'm playing? I forget if it's just a C, it's the 9 or something like that. And then that B flat becomes B flat minor, and then the F becomes F major, the F minor becomes F major. So it was just this kind of fun exercise in taking a really simple melody and trying to treat it and twist it and turn it around harmonically rather than pitch wise. And also a lot of those moves that I heard harmonically, I've heard in movies, and I've heard in science fiction scores and big, film sequences. And I just love some of that harmony, because the tension is just so interesting. And when you're writing music where there's no lyrics, it's very difficult to get a point across without messing with the harmony, because something it can sound creepy, or it can sound dramatic and tense without lyrics and without messing with the harmony too much. But you can't do that it needs to grow, and you need to create a narrative in the song where it can push and pull. And then when it goes to that solo part where everything kind of breaks down, the first chord in there is I think it's a D minor chord, and it changed, like the key changes, and then I dump back into F minor and all this. So like there's just a nice, to me anyways, a nice push and pull of tension and releasing that tension.
Great song.
With very simple melodies on top.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. It was really simple, but everything was going on was so cool.
Thanks, man. That was Gavin Harrison who played on the drums on that album.
Everything there is great.
Yeah, fabulous drummer. Yeah.
What was going on like in your life at the time? What is Remarkably Human?
Oh, Remarkably Human refers to feeling. That's when I was really getting some issues with diabetes.
Oh wow.
Because I wrote a lot of that music. A lot of that music was written in 2014, 13, like that. And I had been diagnosed, and I remember when I was just being like, man, I feel really human. Because when you're that, I feel like remarkable.
Oh, because you're young and you don't. Yeah.
You feel immortal, right? You're 20,
okay.
25, 24, and then all of a sudden you get this thing where you're like, and I it's like, well, yeah, you can, diabetes. It's a big issue, but it's also you can handle it, right? If you're smart with your diet and you can handle it. But then every so often something just happens, because you're a big bag of water. Something just happens, and your blood sugar just fucking plummets, and you're just an old man laying on the floor soaked in sweat, right? And like, man, I feel very human. Very human right now.
Okay, that's
so it was
cool.
kind of, and all that music was written around that time. So it was
That's cool. Thank you
and
for
obviously
sharing
I'm
that,
still
man.
diabetic, but just, slightly better handle on it now.
Well, it's like everything else, man. You got experience, and you just figure out how to work around it.
Right. The highs and the lows, both sugar wise and physically. Yeah.
Do you exercise regularly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just mainly walk. I long walks, a lot of long walks. But I've always loved doing that. My favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Wide Eyes in the Dark. I thought the song themes on this record were like a little heavier, maybe even, I don't want to use the word darker, but for lack of a better word right now, maybe even a little darker. I was curious on that record, what was going on in your life, or what messages were you trying to get out there?
Yeah, the title came from what a lot of stuff was going on. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on in my life at that time, and it was 2018 or so, and I just kept, the image I had in my head was just like, when it's like a dark room, which the darkness meaning the confusion or the thing you're facing or whatever, and you're just your hand, like your hands are in front of you trying to find the wall where the light switch is, and you just like literally
very cool.
The wide eyes in the dark meaning to still try to find the light. There is light there somewhere, or trying to stay positive, or trying to stay on top of what's kind of going wrong. And a lot of the songs have that. Like there's one song title called "In the Mouth of the Wolf."
Yeah, great song.
Which is like kind of thanks, man. It's kind of like you're in the jaws. Like, how are you gonna get? It's like you're in the heat of the battle, so to speak. Every drop of blood. That's just literally every time I have to freaking prick my finger, I'm just like, what a pain.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then I just think about like what's in that blood, and there's a whole universe in that blood, right? Cure promise, another diabetic thing. I was saying there's going to be a cure. And then I turned that into, I had a bit of a story about this whole thing. I never really did anything with it. Maybe one day I'll tell the story. But and then Wide Eyes in the Dark, the song, that whole song, that song is like there's a whole journey in that song, right? It goes through a bunch of different sections. Gemini.
There's a part of that song. It sounds like Tool, 10,000 Days.
Oh yeah, the Dead-a-do.
Yeah, but how did you get that sound, man? That sounded awesome.
Well, that song that was never supposed to. When I had written it, I did not expect it, because that part was just a bit, like a little.
Yeah.
A little. It wasn't even like a riff I thought of as a riff. It was more so a texture thing. Like,
yes,
it's just a D. It's just a D minor, and you could have just played the D minor chord. I would have been like, that's fine. But then I just was like kind of playing around with this little ostinato, this little figure. And then when I got the drums for that, instead of playing just a straight kind of open hi-hat beat, he was doing more of a tom groove, which I didn't tell him to do that. And then when I heard it back, I mean, the first thing I thought of was like, I mean, that sounds like Tool. And he's like, do you want to do more of a groove on that? I was like, no. Leave it like that. And then it turns into the halftime groove. And I think that section was just low gain on a Schecter with a humbucker in the bridge.
It sounded great, man. And you know what, too?
Simple.
It was good that you kept it in, because I could see the temptation, like, oh, this sounds too much like Tool. But it wasn't the whole song. It was just a part of it. It wasn't like you said, hey, let me make this sound like Tool.
No, and to go one step further, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I never listened to Tool.
It doesn't even matter, because it's just
when
a little.
I was in high school, yeah. When I was in high school, I heard Schism, and I heard Ladder. I heard that because that was coming out at the time, and it had this kind of like military, like cold, dark, odd time progressive thing. I thought that was really cool, but until I had other people like, that sounds like a Tool riff, and it's like, oh fuck, I get, yeah, it does. But yeah, to me, it sounded more like just a new metal band, like one of those Papa Roach kind of bands doing those drop D riffs with the tom groove on it. But beyond all that, the riff it was, and this is kind of something I always try to do. It was simple, and it served a purpose in a song. It was nothing crazy. If there was a crazy riff there, I feel like the song would not have had an arc. It would not have had the same arc that it did, because
the music I write
does not lend to be technical. Sorry.
You're very good at that. It's very deliberate, the arc of your music.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
100%.
really,
Yeah.
I appreciate this. I love long songs. So I'm going to notice that, because sometimes, if the arc isn't good, it's just like, all right, when is this going to be over? But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you do a really good job of, taking me through the journey here.
One guy I used as a reference for a lot of that when I was first writing some of the more dense music was Pat Metheny, the Pat Metheny
Interesting.
group. A lot
Yeah.
of like, especially his record, Speaking of Now. That's a really great record. People should listen to Speaking of Now. It's fantastic. And he does some of this, like the songs on that record are all 13, 14 minutes long. And it's not that
You
I
said
wanted to
Speaking of
write.
Now? Sorry.
Speaking of Now,
Okay, thank
it's
you.
not that I wanted to write the long music. It's just there was no way to trim that idea down. There's just was no way. That's how long the idea had to be. And I remember him saying, there's a quote. He goes, "The song is as long as exactly as long as it needs to be." Like that's
Yeah.
the whole thing. If you want to cut it down and make a shorter version of it, it's a different song, totally different song. So I don't necessarily set out. Sometimes I don't want to write a long song. It's like, oh man, this song's way too long. And I'll look at the timeline of demo and be like, how the hell is this 9? How is it 9 minutes? What the hell happened? When you go through it, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess it's long. The arc either lives and dies by that sometimes, all right, because it could be too much. There could be too many peaks and valleys. But I try to just build things up, drop you down, and then maybe build it up one more time and get to the ending. But who knows as that progresses. The other stuff I'm doing with Ben, the vocal stuff, they're much less expansive ideas. They're usually between 3-5 minute songs.
A lot of I hate to put labels on stuff, but if people would listen to you knee jerk, a lot of people would dump you in the prog category.
Right.
And I said the same thing to Brian about his last record. There's a lot of spacey stuff going on, like a lot of like psychedelic vibes to me.
Right.
Is that like deliberate, or is that just how I hear it?
I think it's just a part of it's just a part of the thing that happens when you have done enough instrumental music to where you go, I need to do something that is not just following melody into next melody, into riff, into solo, like there needs to be something in the song, at least for me right now, some connective tissue, some world building, some soundscapes. And again, that last record I worked with Eric from the Contortionist, and he's the kind of the grand master of using these analog synth sounds and programming some of these sounds. He's a huge fan. Like, I don't know anyone that has a thicker broth of his musical soup. Man, this guy's listened to everything. He's got everything in there. It's all in the soup. It's like, you want some of this? Right, here you go. And that's a testament to what happens when you work with people who are specialists at what they do. Like I wouldn't tell the keyboard player, like I could tell him what the harmony is and show him the melodies and whatever. But if he's like, man, I think this part would really benefit from sort of a dotted eighth note on this sequencer. It's like, all right, try it out. And then you listen to it, you're like, fuck, I would have never ever thought of that. And it's better. I heard a cool version of this. There was a show that came out on Netflix called The Midnight Gospel. It's a really weird show. It just came out. I urge everyone to watch it.
The Midnight Gospel.
The Midnight Gospel. It's massive right now. It's just like a half an hour cartoon, adult cartoon. It's basically about a guy who travels different dimensions with his space podcast. You would actually love it.
I would, but getting my wife to watch a cartoon is going to be a very big push.
Right. So
that'll be something for the treadmill, man.
That's right. So Duncan Trussell's the creator of it, and he has a podcast too, based off the podcast. There's a moment he tells a story when he was in the animation room, and Duncan's a comedian too, stand-up comic. And one of the animators says, I think we should put this idea in. It was a comedic moment. And Duncan goes, they had a huge, he's like, that's a bad, I know that's not funny. It's a bad idea, blah, blah, blah. And the animator goes, I really think we should try it. And then they agreed to it. And he's like, that was the moment that the show became the show. That's when the main character, that moment was when the main character, you could see his sense of humor. You could see his where his mind goes. You could see what he's doing. So point being, even in that respect, it's like the guy knew better. He just knew better because that was his realm. The guy who was the expert at comedy, he saw the animator, and animation comedy different than spoken comedy, of course, right? So it's like he didn't think it was going to work. Trust me, it'll work.
And
that's
it did.
part of the show.
Yeah,
it becomes the best part of the show. So it's the whole thing. Same. I just love moments like that because it shows you the collaboration and when you let your guard down a little bit, which was really hard for me for a long time. When you let your guard down and open up your circle, people, you don't know. Again, it's like I'm not a genius. I don't know everything. Let's get people in here that know more than I do about that, and it makes your music better. Well, that's where a lot of that psychedelic stuff comes from because Eric has that. Eric has his foot in that door.
Yeah, that's what, like, one of the things I really like about your music, because to me, conventional prog, and prog means different, because some people consider Pink Floyd prog. I don't.
Sure.
But to me, conventional prog is very, like, it's like a hammer hitting a bell a million times. It's not my thing. You know?
I'm not into it either. I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I don't like and this is just how I work, but I've never really been into the math side of it. Like,
it's a little stoic. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's great prog bands and like there's stuff I could never do, but I tend to find myself gravitating towards just melody.
Yeah. It's hard for me. It's a little hard to hang on to.
Yeah.
Nick, tell me some low points maybe, or dark periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
Dark points. I think just, expectations and reality not lining up are always difficult. They're always kind of a moment where you have to make a decision. Is this gonna affect how I handle things? Is this gonna affect my positivity? Like, am I gonna go, okay, it was good that happened, or I'll never do this again, I'll never work with this person again? Like, that kind of stuff happened. It doesn't happen too much anymore, thankfully, because you figure out your world.
You have better vetting mechanisms.
That's right, man. I had company falling outs. I had those. I had falling outs with people that were interested in management, and and at the time maybe I didn't handle some of those things properly, and I definitely kind of regret and lament some of that stuff. But it is what it is. You learn from it. You just hopefully don't continue to repeat those mistakes. Low points musically, not so much, because I have never treated it like this is it. This is the peak. It's like I've always only treated it like this is what I'm capable of right now. This is what I'm able to do right now, and I've been able to make peace with that a long time ago.
I think that's really healthy too, because I think it keeps you more in the present. Right. What you're doing, if you're like, hey, this is where I'm at. Yeah. Man,
I try. I really, 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 really try to be present with that stuff. It is brutally difficult sometimes, but I don't see I really do not see any benefit beyond healthy competition of comparing. I don't like.
It's not, man.
It's painful. It causes you pain. It does, man. It makes you hurt. Because you can't do what the other person does. You're not that fucking person. It's just impossible. And I thankfully learned that relatively early on, and it's very easy to get jealous and very easy to wonder why you're not getting the same opportunities as someone. But it's maybe either it's not your time, or the other side of it, people don't want to ever admit. It's just like, your shit's not good enough. It's just not. It's just, you're not good enough yet.
Well, a lot of it is different. Everybody has different. You get different cards dealt to you as well, and sometimes it has nothing to do with good enough. It just has to do with that's the fucking path that was laid out for you.
Yeah, and timing, and there's so many variables, right? But I low points are usually me in a hotel room wanting to go home. I get that shit all the time. Those are low points. You know, it's low points. You know, when you're not having, like, when the night before I was on a tour in the summer with a band that I had no business being on tour with because our fan bases have no crossover. And you know, there's some nights where I literally go up and I'll play a song, like I'll play Cure Promise, and there's a real dynamic part. Literally, someone will yell at a packed theater, they'll yell, "Shut the fuck up!" And everyone starts laughing, and then it's just chain reaction, right? But it's like, ooh, okay, that happened. But that's one of those things where it's okay, it's a low point, but it's okay. Like, why did you expect everyone would love it? Like,
yeah, that's
why did you expect everyone in this room who is a unique person, who paid money for this ticket, who had to get a babysitter, or who had to take off work early? Why did you assume they would love it? It's like, well, I guess I just assumed. It's like, well, now I won't. Now you can't.
Yeah.
So the low point in that case,
good that you like. I give you credit for working that through, and you know, and owning, not owning what they did, but owning like your own processing of why you thought, because that's important. You know, most people don't go to that next level of, it's just like, oh man, fuck them. But
no, definitely not.
That's not, there's not a resolution there. If you think about like what you did, okay, why does this upset me? Why did I have these expectations? Were they justified?
Yeah. And then the worst thing you can hear, now this, I'll just tell you a quick kind of thing to go further with that. That's okay. As bad enough as that is, and as bad enough as it is to then have to talk to your band that you're paying and your crew after that, to just like talk to them about that after, right? It's like, and thankfully you hire buddies and stuff, so they help you through it, right? It's like, man, it's all good. We're in this market, maybe just this town. They're more into, it's like, yeah, okay, thanks for trying, right? Like, thanks for trying to talk to you. But then the worst part is when, because I'm at a level where I have my own crew too, is I'm carrying my shit at the side door, and you got to walk through the place where all the fans are outside drinking their beer and having the cigarette, and you hear them talking about your set, going, what the fuck was that shit? And you literally walk by them, and they look at you and go, oh, there he is. Like,
oh my
then
God.
there's that level of humiliation.
That's next level.
But it's like you just go, well, yeah, well, of course that's what people do. They're not going to just talk shit in the venue and then go outside and you know, it's like, that's going to be a part of the ongoing. So it's like, it just is what it is. It's and it's also too progressive rock music and this instrumental world. These are a lot of times elite music fans. They listen to what they love, and this is the best band in the world. No one else can fuck with them. So they're passionate, and I love the passion, because you see them leave the show with the headliner band T-shirts on both shoulders. They bought 2 shirts. They bought the vinyl. It's like, man, that's great for the headlining band, because they're a niche band too. And that's it's amazing to have something you love that much. But all I'm saying is, I just happen to be the brunt. I happen to take the steel toe boot on the jaw that day, but I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. It's fine.
That's good,
it's
man.
Interesting. It's just interesting. Those are low. I don't even know if they're low points. They're just moments where you're like, oh yeah, see, I'm still a human that not everyone loves the product I produced. It's like, that happens. It happens.
Yeah.
You know, and it will always happen. It will always happen. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It was funny, man. Last week, some guy posted up a comment. It was real. He said something like, the interview is okay, but the interviewer really sucked.
Yeah, it's going to happen too, man.
And I was just like, okay. I mean, hey, man, you got the right. I'm totally fine with that.
Which interview was it? Was it the or the one you just put up with?
No, it was an older interview that they were commenting on. It was an older. Right. It was on YouTube. You know, it was an older interview show that was on there, but it was just so funny. And I just laughed. I just chuckled. I'm like, man, you know, you can't make everybody happy. You know, I can't make my wife happy 24/7, you know, so why would I reasonably have any expectations of thinking like I'm going to make every stranger happy? I was just, it rubs off me like
it's still, it's hard for it to not hurt, right? Because you're a person. It hurt. It does hurt. I'm not going to lie. It does. Of course it does.
Well, that's a different situation you're in where you're on stage and like that's next. Listen, it's real easy for anybody sitting in their mom's basement to comment on a fucking video or like just the stuff people make in general, like that everybody feels compelled to be an expert in anything. You know, it's real easy, but that's different when you're in person. It's like, man, have some fucking sensitivity. You may not like the guy's music. He schlepped down here from Canada and is, you know, or wherever the hell you were, he's here. You don't have to like it, but don't fucking denigrate the guy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because that's like
manners. Sometimes
those things happen when you're just like, man, it's funny. That was the best show of the tour too. So, oh my God. But regardless, it is what it is. And it's not the first time that happens to people, and it won't be the last time. So you just take it on the chin and you move on to you take the pirate ship to the next city, you know?
There you go.
Get back on board and you fucking drive to the next harbor or sail to the next harbor.
Sail to the next harbor, man. I want to talk about gear. I know you've got your Schecter custom guitar, but tell me, like, what are some unique, like, what are the cool things about it that you enjoy?
Well, much like, I think it's kind of an analog to the music that I write and the even the tones I get that I like to use it's very simple, but it's very, very much, you know, very reliable. I can if my music's basic melodies with harmony that supports it, my guitar is just something that I can pick it up and it's immediately comfortable. I don't have to fuck with too much. There's not too many features on it that I don't need. It's streamlined, it's clean, it's easy. You know, these two over here are USA custom guitars with the Wenge neck and the ebony fingerboard. Not even for tone. I just think they look really cool.
I was just going to ask you, is that really ebony or rosewood? Man. Yeah, it's ebony. I love ebony.
Yeah, and
God, I love
it. Yeah, man. And then these ones over here are well, there's one other US one, but those are the Diamond Series ones, and they're just the younger brother essentially to the custom shop.
So how are so those are your Nick Johnston guitars, but
all of them, yeah.
But they're not custom shop. What are the difference between the custom shop and the Diamonds?
Oh, the difference is the custom shop is made by two people in the California custom shop. You know, everything's hand done, hand wound pickups, hand hammered frets. You know, you name it, right? And also it has the Wenge and ebony, whereas
what did you call it? Wenge?
Wenge, yeah.
What is that?
Wenge. It's like an African hardwood. A lot of bass players use it.
Oh, is that the body or is the neck? Oh, interesting.
The neck, yeah. So then the Diamond Series, which by the way, the USA custom guitar is around $3,400, I think, whereas the Diamond Series one is about $700. So it's a much more accessible guitar. It has some pretty cool features too. You know, it's got the custom pickups and it's got baked maple neck and an ebony fingerboard, locking tuning heads, and that one's made at the Indonesia factory. And that's one. That one sells like it's ridiculous, man. That thing, it caught a wave. It really did, and it filled a hole in the market for a Strat with those features at that price point. I mean,
you can't get an ebony fretboard for $700.
No, it's insane. It really. I actually don't know how they had managed to pull that off, but you know, every day, you know, I get emails or I get updates on that, and it's just like the reviews people are, and like all I can say is I did not expect that, because I just thought it was going to be another guitar people kind of wrote off as a Strat copy, but no, it's kind of taken on its own life. And the guitar, there's some people that have all of them. They have every single one of them because they just love
That's
the guitars.
cool.
And they
God
collect
bless
them,
them, right?
yeah, it's great, man. It's so cool to see that there was still room on the market for another
Yeah.
guitar, because at this point, like, isn't everything been done? And I guess so, but there's still things you can tweak, and there's still problems to be solved, I think, from a price point standpoint and from a feature standpoint.
Well, a Mexican Strat,
also,
a Fender Mexican
yeah,
Strat is probably $400 or $500, at least $200 to $300 more, and it doesn't have an ebony neck or a baked maple neck. And ebony
yeah,
fretboard,
yeah, I think you're right. I think they were that price or $600 up here when I was 15, so it's been a long time. The price is probably up close to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I use, and I typically just use the orange one right now. When I travel, I take 2 of those with me, and that's all, or one of them with me actually, and that's my gear. I don't use any other guitars. I don't have any other guitars. I don't need any other guitars. It's interesting.
That's cool. What do you use in amp wise? What do you typically play through, both in the studio and on stage?
In the studio, it totally up to what. Like, okay, on Remarkably Human, I used a Friedman amp when I was using their stuff, and then on Wide Eyes in the Dark, we built the guitar sound with 5 amps. We built it with, it was basically, we had the switching, but was it 4 amps or 5 amps? We had a switching box where we had turned all 5 amps on at once and mic'd them up. It was we built it like it was like a sandwich, right? Like the bottom of the bass was like a rectifier boogie.
Yeah.
The second part of the sandwich was a little bit more bassy MIDI, which we used a Dr. Z, I think, and then we used Marshall, and then we used something else. But the cool thing about that was, instead of EQing, we used the mics as the EQ. It's like, if you want more top end, you turn that amp up. So we created this really cool spread of amps using just the microphone. But I mean, amp-wise, I work with Boogie, so whenever I'm somewhere, I'll see if the distributor can supply an amp. But at home, I'll just use I don't really use anything really. I just use a practice amp or whatever I can get my hands on. Sometimes I'll use a Kemper direct into my Studio One just to get some really basic, just to get something down without turning on a bunch of gear. Simple, right? I just like to plug and play. I'm not too specific about what amps and shit I use. I could whatever you got. Yeah. I used a dual rec for a couple tours on the clean channel with a distortion pedal on. Just whatever works, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's deceptive because you are one of these guys. You're pretty relaxed. Your body language is like, you're not like gripping the neck. You're like very relaxed.
Oh no, God no. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's very misleading. So it makes it look easy.
That's funny. I actually had to learn how to do that because I had a doctor. I went to this performance arts doctor up in Hamilton, and he did. It was so funny, man. I'm not sure what it's like down in the States if you guys have performance art. I don't know if you do or not. But
if you could spend money on it, pretty much it's here. I just don't know what they're called.
Oh, right. That makes sense. Yeah. This guy he was an ex concert pianist, and he had carpal tunnel and tendonitis in both hands. He was just fucked. He had to stop playing. I think he said he goes to the Grammys every year to help artists. He's like, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that are playing injured. He was telling me, some of the people he told me it was insane. I was like, really?
Wow.
But I went in there. I was having like this burning in my left hand. It was like cut a few years ago, and he gave me all these exercises, and he gave me first he gave me this thing where I had to follow on a screen this graphic of a guy breathing. I had to follow his waveform in and out. It's like, hey, can you match that? Then he showed me one of the guy's stomach and the diaphragm, like breathing in, breathing in. Then he gave me an Xbox controller. He hooked me up to a nervous system something that would measure my breathing and my heart rate, my pulse, blood pressure, all this stuff. And I had to play the video game. It was a racing game through a dirt track. It was powered by my breathing. So my breathing had to be even so the car would keep moving and I would just steer it. Point being, I had to do something complicated, and I got through it fine. It was no problem. My breathing was great. But then he said, play your guitar now. Let's look at your breathing. My breathing was it was a fucking nightmare. I was holding my breath in. I was tense. He goes, a lot of your problems are coming from not breathing, like just like getting the oxygen in your blood and properly not being so pent up and so stiff. And sure enough, I mean, within a little while, I changed how I played. I wasn't as stiff and kind of like ice cold, and just breathe more. I still have, it's hard, right? It's really, really hard, but it went away. Just from breathing.
Yeah, man. It's very noticeable. You're incredibly relaxed, man. And it's like I said, it's very deceiving. It makes it look, quote, easy, but it's far from, it's frustrating.
Yeah. It's funny, man.
As an outsider. Yeah. I'm like, fuck, how is this guy not breaking a sweat? I'm breaking a sweat just listening to him, trying to figure it out.
Oh my God. Sometimes it's easier than others. That's for damn sure. It depends on the sound you're getting and the room you're in and everything. But for the most part, I've also done, I had what I consider, like when I go and play a show with the band, it's the easiest part of my job. The hardest thing I did, which was like my running around the block with 50-pound weights on my ankles, was all the guitar clinic stuff I did. I'd get in front of a room of a couple hundred people and I'd be the only one up there. And I'm just improvising for half an hour, just answering questions and playing and breaking stuff down. Some guy asks, like, how would you outline these chords? And I have to do it. And it's just like, that doesn't happen at a show. At a show, you're basically on wheels.
Yeah.
You push the car drives and you play through the song. You thank the crowd and you get the fuck off stage, whether they liked it or not. Whereas the clinic, it's like, you got to go up there for 2 hours. I do 2 hours and
that's a long time.
And I interact, very long time. I interact and I tell stories and I play and I try to express myself without anything behind me, just playing guitar. And that whole thing, the clinician thing, and the way I try to approach it, I would say that's responsible for the way I sound now.
That's great, man. That's really good. This was I remember in particular, it was a video. I think you were maybe in a guitar store, and I just never saw anybody playing so relaxed, and you just like, it was just like so fluid, man. It was just so cool to see that. I was like, wow.
That's great. Yeah, so that's what all that stuff. That's what that kind of all started out as, was like, I have this tendonitis. What's going on? How can I fix? I was young too. I was like 26. I don't know. I was young. Didn't want that.
Yeah, man, that's for sure. You're still young. Trust me. It's all relative, Nick.
Yeah, man.
You don't use tons of effects either, unless I'm missing something. You're not.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't use any effects now.
Yeah.
Anything added on those albums is post.
Post. Yeah, it sounds great.
Post. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Tell me your top 3 Desert Island discs.
Desert Island discs.
Yeah.
You son of a gun. This is.
Yeah.
Man. What have I been listening to lately? Desert Island discs. Maybe Alive in America, Steely Dan. I think I have to put that on there. I've listened to that album so many times. It's disgusting.
First time someone's mentioned that.
Oh, what a great!
I've never heard that record. I've never heard that record.
Oh my God! It's their live album they did in the '90s with Dennis Chambers on drums.
I love Dennis Chambers.
It is absolutely, yeah. It's just devastating, man. Probably. Desert Island disc. Good Lord. Probably. Oh man, I can't even think about what it would be. It's like, it's ridiculous. Probably something. I'm a huge Toto fan. Probably something by Toto.
I had Lucas.
I actually love.
If you want to go listen to that.
Oh, that's cool. A lot of people, they kind of, this album wasn't a big one for them, I guess, in a lot of ways, but I actually loved Hydra. I think Hydra's a great record, man.
Well, people are big fans of Toto.
Yeah, man, I love that band. Mainly because of Jeff Porcaro. He's my all-time favorite drummer. Maybe Physical Graffiti. Love that one.
That's a great record.
listened to that a billion times. Dark Side of the Moon, maybe.
What's your favorite song on Physical Graffiti?
Ooh, I always found my.
Hey, you cut off. I lost your sound now. Yeah, now you're back. It was like it went off for a second.
Oh, I think these just died. That's okay though.
Oh, you sound fine without them, actually.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the first things I wanted to learn was the Rover.
That's a tough song, man.
Yeah, that whole verse riff too. It's such a cool riff. Any of that stuff, but that's all stuff I listen to because of my dad growing up listening to all that shit. Yeah, Desert Element. I mean maybe a Soundgarden record or oh good lord, yeah. I'd have to sit down and think about that for an hour. That's tough, man. That's really difficult. Definitely the first one that comes to mind is the Steely Dan record for sure.
Thanks for mentioning that because I'm gonna check that out. I've never heard that record. Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
I think I'm really able. I'm able to adapt to situations without complaining too much.
That's good.
I'm not a big complainer. I'm more of a let's solve the problem versus complain about it.
All right. And then if I asked your partner, your girlfriend, you said, what would she say she likes most about you?
Probably that I would think that I'm always interested in doing something, not just sitting on the couch playing video games or watching a movie. Like I'll say, hey, let's go and do this, or let's go and do. Or she'll say, let's go and do this. I'll go, yeah, let's go.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll just do it because I want to try it. Let's go out, do something. Typically, don't want to just be every night after night, just sitting there and
Yeah, it makes for a dull existence, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
Something or someone you miss from your childhood?
Something I miss from my childhood. I guess just riding bikes with friends. That was like I love doing that. Just riding a bike with 5 people around and just riding. It was like you'd go out at 8 o'clock in the morning because your energy is so fucking explosive. And you come home when it gets dark because that's when dinner was probably going to be made. I miss that. Who wouldn't miss that? That's like that's the shit right there, man.
Do you still live in that small town where you grew up?
No, I live in just outside.
Oh.
Yeah, close enough to the airport in Toronto.
Any non-musical superpowers?
Non-musical super. I used to read for a few years. I was reading a book a week.
That's great.
I was doing that. I was reading one book every week, just because of all the travel. That's all and I don't have an iPad. I don't spend much time on the phone and stuff like that. So I would just read. And I used to, the guy I would tour with, Ryan, he would always make fun of me. He's like, he would always be like, what? Because the books, they were usually sci-fi books, Stephen King books, the big ass books. He's just like, you bought the phone book again? Like just something, always make fun. But yeah, that was and then also I love going on just like, I'm easily entertained by exploring, like just walking around, looking at shit. So I'll go on 1 and 2 hour walks every day. I don't know if that's a superpower, but maybe the superpower there is just having I
think it's great getting out.
Yeah, like I don't need entertainment 24/7. I don't need.
You don't need this.
Definitely don't need that.
Yeah.
Do not need that. Yeah.
I have this thing with my wife now. Whenever we hang out, I'm like, we have to put the phones away. I don't want any.
Yeah.
I
leave mine I always leave mine in the car. I just have it there in case I have a low blood sugar and need to call an ambulance.
Oh yeah, that's important.
That's never happened to that extent, but
No, but you can't tick around with that because that's out of your control. You don't know.
Yeah, or I use it for Google Map if I'm driving somewhere. But I don't. I fucking hate the phone. I hate it so much now. I really do. Really, really do.
Yeah, I'm bordering on that.
Mhm.
Tell me the favorite place you traveled, man.
Oh, that's easy, man. Tokyo, no question.
Really?
No question. I was supposed to go there in mid-March, right before
Uh,
all this. That was a really
that sucks.
that was bad, man. I was very upset about that. Very, very depressed about that. It's my favorite place.
Tokyo. Yeah. That
Period.
sucks, man. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hey, 3 more questions. Tell me about a specific experience that either changed your life or changed the way you think about things.
Changed my life
Or
was
changed the way you think about things.
well, definitely getting diabetic diagnosis for sure. That really changed. I mean, that changed everything, man. Like the stuff you take for granted, what I could eat, how I thought every minute of the day has changed to like right now as we're talking, I'm thinking as soon as we finish here, I can check my blood and see what I have to eat something and how long that's going to sustain me until I eat again. It's like it's always there. It's always going.
But I thought you said adult. I thought you had type 1. You said I thought adult onset was type 2.
No, I have type 1. I got type 1. My dad has type 1. His dad had type 1.
Okay.
My uncle has type 1.
So it's genetic.
Yeah. So it just kind of one day it just turned on basically. My autoimmune disease was just like, we're here. So that changed. I mean, changed everything for sure. Absolutely. Not to keep bringing that up, of course, but
no, but it sounds like it sounds like you have a pretty good. It sounds like you've put that in a pretty good place.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like what we talked about off the air about, it gives you gratitude for other stuff. It, you're aware of it, and like it's I mean, it sounds like you've got a pretty good.
Prioritize. You just think.
Yeah.
You think differently. You have to. You can't be irresponsible with going out and partying and drinking. You just can't because you'll die. You will die.
Which sounds like it's not an issue for you. You said you'd never been that guy.
No,
anyway.
it's all good. It's all good. No problem.
Most difficult thing you've ever had to do?
Most difficult thing I ever had to do. I mean, I guess I guess there could be a ton of answers from that. I remember the first time traveling to go and play somewhere was very difficult. It was very it was exciting, but it was also like I was really freaked out. I was like shaking and sweating like a pig, and basically, I mean, I can tell you a million things like just different milestones in life that don't perspective changes as you look back on those things. But the perspective never changed on the first time I went. So the first time a company asked me to do anything, I was talking about Seymour Duncan when they asked me to come to NAMM and play. Because in my mind, I had built up NAMM as this it's like
wow. The Grammys.
Then you go there and after you do your performance, you realize it was just like, oh, those people were just walking by and they got their phones out because they happened to be there. But going up there and doing that, it was like I felt all this pressure that this company brought me down, and I hadn't really done anything with this project outside of Canada, or I haven't. People were filming me. Everyone had their phone out. It's
nuts. I cannot believe the phones. The thing. There were people just walking around filming, and I'm like, are they gonna fucking go home and say, "Hey, honey, check this out. This is an aisle I walked." Yeah. I don't. It was nuts. I mean, they're literally walking around.
Well, everyone's a news anchor now, right? So, but
it was just weird. Like that's the last thing I'd want to film. Like, hey, here's a convention center. It's fucking crowded. There's 1 million people in here. Let's film that and bring it home and like post it somewhere.
So that was really hard. Yeah, man, absolutely. That was really hard. I mean, from not just a playing standpoint, but like emotionally and mentally, it's really hard, man. But then again, it's like you do it in a bunch, and then all of a sudden, it's just,
but that says a lot about your commitment to like honoring your own responsibility in that, that was a big thing to you, and you had this opportunity. I think that says more about a good quality of you as far as like, hey man, I want to deliver. I don't want to fuck around here. I take this really seriously.
I wanted to, and you just don't want to let yourself down. That's another big part of it.
Yeah.
Let yourself down.
Last question, man. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And man, I'm so glad I got to connect with you. And you're like as cool a guy as you are a musician. So,
oh my God, thank you, man. You too.
Thanks. I'll tell my kids that. Most important lesson life has taught you.
Most important lesson, I think, is if we're talking about let's just talk about music for a second. It's just like there's time. A lot of people think I got to get something up now. I got to get something now. It's got to get it now. Or I look back on all of that and go like, if I didn't need to rush. Like it didn't need to come out. I didn't have anything to say, and I shouldn't have said it, or try to enjoy the process more, or don't beat yourself up too much about it. I would have probably practiced less, honestly, too. I didn't need to play as much as I did. I spent a lot of time.
That's really cool that you said that.
I spent way too much time playing guitar. I missed out on a lot, right? I missed out on a lot of stuff, a lot of experiences, and a lot of relationships, and I missed out on a lot because of playing too much. And then also, I think it's really a matter of like, at some point, maybe everyone goes through their own version of this, but like I realized that it's just music. Like it's just music. Like don't let it control everything. Like don't let it ruin your life. It's just fucking music. You can write it for your whole life. You have an infinite supply of it. Don't let it be this like it's everything. It's the most important. It's like you miss out on a lot of stuff. And then I mean I could talk about that forever. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But and then even like as someone who typically, because of all the time I spent alone, playing and kind of calling my own shots, like letting your guard down and listening and being open to hearing other things and having other people, like I said earlier, come in your circle, whether it's a relationship or other musicians you're working with, like. And it may be difficult at first, it may be you want to fight against it, and you no, this is the way it is, and this is me, blah, blah. It's like other people will make you better. They just will, and that's something that took me a long time. The right people, not that. Let me, it's not everyone, but the right people. Yeah, the right people will make you better, and I think listening is extremely underrated. Just listening.
Well, I'll tell you.
Underrated.
Well, I'll tell you what I got out of this interview and talking to you is I really respect your level of responsibility for yourself and your gratitude. Even like, yeah, you sacrificed a lot, but I did notice throughout that you're very grateful for the things that you have now and you don't take them off.
Big time.
Yeah, I really respect that about you, man. I'm sure that is going to continue to be part of the reason why you're so successful. Okay, so let me just say this again in case you haven't gotten the message. Man, I would really highly encourage everybody to listen to Nick Johnston. Again, it's Johnston, JOHNSTON. Nick, your website is nickjohnstonmusic.com. Is that right?
Sir, yes, sir.
It's Nick Johnston Music. What's that? .com.
Yeah, Nick Johnston. And if anyone doesn't want to just type that into a browser, just type my name into a search bar with the word guitar. And you'll get some links, somewhere to go, and follow that link.
Follow that link. And I had to like beat Nick over the head, but he didn't want me to promote anything. But so let me just promote something anyway, because I feel like I owe it to him, because he's just a really cool guy. Man, he's just a great player. So first of all, he's got 5 solo records. They're all wonderful. My personal favorites are Remarkably Human and Atomic Mind, although the last one, White Eyes in the Dark, is an awesome record. I like the cover of that last one too. It's like
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Well, it's cool because you have like the relicking of the album cover on the edges, which I thought, yeah, that was pretty cool. Also, go to Nick's got a YouTube channel, so please subscribe to that. I know he's on social media, like he's got a page, so like that, and just I'm sure he's on other socials, so just follow him on there.
Yeah, the usual shit.
The usual shit. Homework, man. Talk about your homework.
Oh yeah, we'll do that just real quick.
Yeah, that seems really cool.
So I have this project. It's once a week. I give you something to work on for the week, and it's a mass. It's like something I've tailored. We're on week 28 this week.
Wow. So you've been working this for half a year. That's great.
Yeah, it's been great. Every Sunday I put up, and I basically just say, here's your homework for the week, and it's a link, and you get the video, and there's usually a tab, and there's some sort of breakdown or a backing track, and I'm trying to tailor it for all levels, beginner, medium, whatever you want to call it, and it's just this kind of really cool group of people that are doing it now. And there's a second tier where it's called extra credit, where I give an extra thing to work on, and then there's like an open dialogue I have with those people, and it's fantastic. And yeah,
it's a membership site. It's a membership site.
It's
awesome.
$6 a month. $6 a month.
Oh my God.
Which basically ends up being $1.50 a week kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool, and all the previous weeks are there. So if you start now, you can, you go back and look at, and you just go through each week. Just everything's designed that you follow this kind of recipe, and hopefully your playing changes, or you get different insight, or it shows you something new, and you get confused about that. So the whole point being new shit for you to not know anything about.
Yeah,
and then
you
keep learning. It's like, that's sometimes the best thing. It's like the more you know, the more you don't know kind of thing. It's fantastic. And then we keep going from there. And next week, what are we doing? We're talking about different modes, and I'm giving very specific backing tracks to highlight very specific tonal centers right now. So I think we're doing Phrygian next week. So yeah,
that's awesome.
It's great. I'm having a fucking blast with it. It is fantastic.
That's cool, man.
And I urge anyone to support the cause. Come check it out.
Yeah, man. And after 2 years of membership, you go to Nick's remote location in Canada and have a snowball fight in the winter.
That's right. All my snowballs have an ice center, so it hurts you a little bit more.
Hey, man, is there anything else you want to mention? I'm looking forward to the new record coming out. Nick's singing on his next project, at some project in 2021, probably.
Yeah, no, I got nothing else I mean, just like everyone else right now, we're just hanging it. My whole thing is just I've been trying to be as creative and as positive with the downtime. I feel like I kind of needed it, and I've just been using it to my advantage, man. Like, I'm no longer jet lagged. I'm eating great. I'm
he's eating great. He's walking. He's recording new music. He's singing. Life has changed.
Yeah, he sounds like he's 85, recovering. He's eating great again. Walking. He's walking again.
He's walking again.
Can you believe it? He's walking.
He's walking again, guys. Oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it, man. That's it.
Awesome. Well, I'll look forward to your new music. And hang on a second, we're up. Thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Let's come back sometime.
I'd love to have you back, man. When the next record comes out, you come back on. We'll talk about it.
Awesome.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Check out Nick Johnston and his music, man. Support what he's doing. This guy is a brilliant musician. He's like an incredibly deeply talented, really soulful guitar player, man. And he gives you 110% every fucking measure of every song that he plays. I mean, really, I don't say that lightly. I mean, he's a very deep cat musically. And that's it, man. Most important, please don't forget, especially nowadays with all the crazy shit going on in the world, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Nick, thank you so much for everything, bro.
Thanks, buddy.